I think now with all the, on YouTube, right, all the property videos and all that, it's so easy to, jump on the bandwagon and think, oh yeah, I can invest and all that. But the numbers really matter a lot. And it can work both ways. Like initially I thought we couldn't afford it. But then when we did the numbers, yeah, we could. And then on the other hand, don't just think that, other people can do it, you can do it as well. Yeah, everyone's case is very different. You really must sit down, look at, what is the amount that you are comfortable with before making any decisions. I think that's very, very important.
Yep, indeed, it is very important. That's Mating, our distribution lead at TFC. She and her husband Simon started out by bidding their BTO in Bukit Panjang and are currently waiting for their condo, as what Mating puts it.
Why are you laughing? It's a real thing. Okay?
I know.
I'm a neighborhood kid, so it's very...
I get it. I feel you, yes.
Unheard of. Anyway, so after that, the next thing that we had to do was to sell our house.
Clearly, we had a great time talking about their property journey so far. And it made me wonder, is this the Singaporean dream? From HDB to condo? I do think somewhere deep down, many of you share this goal. So I'm very happy to have Simon and Mating in the house to share their journey and dig into the interesting details on their thought processes behind each move so far and how this kampong girl joins the atas neighborhood in Upper Thomson.
Hi, I'm Simon. I hope you find my voice nice. Yeah.
A bit awkward, huh? Warm up.
I'm a private tutor. We are here because my wife Mating is part of the TFC staff. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
My name is Mateen. I'm also a private tutor. And yeah, somehow I'm working for TFC as well. It's a coincidence.
Yeah, such a long journey, right?
Right.
How did we end up here?
And somehow Coconut Avenue is looking for people who just bought houses, and we just bought one, so we are here.
Okay, warning. A lot of laughter in today's episode. We had a great time talking about this, and we want to answer your questions. So episode 10, we will go live. You want to join us live with your specific questions, join our email list, follow our socials, join our Telegram group. Everything is in the description below. And to kick off the discussion with the duo today, I want to find out why Bukit Panjang.
So at that time, we were not married yet. Okay, and I happened to be in Bukit Panjang. I saw this piece of empty land.
Wow, like you buy the whole land like that, huh? Freehold, is it?
It sounds damn rich, right?
Can you just get to the point? We're only 3 minutes in. Okay.
No, that was my vision. I thought, okay, empty land. Oh, they are building something. Yeah. And then after that, I went around. I saw this bus stop. Okay, so at that time, Mating was working in the school in the Bukit Timah area. So then I realized that she can have very good transport to her workplace. So then I just asked her, how you want to stay here or not? Yeah.
Then I think initially I wasn't very keen because I'm from Toa Payoh, right? Toa Payoh the best, central area.
Bias.
Hello, it's true, okay? It's funny because it's true. So anyway, so at first I wasn't very keen on Bukit Panjang because, West, right? I have never stayed in the West before. But then after Simon's presentation with maybe 10,000 PowerPoint slides or what, then I thought, okay, at least there's transport to my workplace. That was my main concern. Yeah, so we decided to do BTO for that area. And actually the first time we did it, it failed. We didn't get it. Only the second time then we got our house at Bukit
So that means
Panjang,
you didn't get the first project?
which was a blessing in disguise because turned out that project had a lot of problems. There were construction issues and other stuff as well. Yeah, so the house that we got was the one next to that first one that we applied for.
Okay, quick recap. When you go through the HDB BTO process, you will have to bid. And if the project's extremely popular, like your Bidadari, like your Mountbatten, or whatever you, right, you may not even get a chance to go near the showroom, the secret showroom. No, just kidding. But yes, I'm sure a lot of people recognize and understand by this point in your life, you know that in Singapore, there are a lot of bidding and balloting. And if you don't get it, you move on to the next thing, huh? But if the projects fail to meet the minimum requirement number, which is currently about 70% of the project will not be built. So for all of you wanting to stay in Tengah, please go and get more people to sign up for the Tengah BTO.
So was that the way of asking for the hand? Maybe we get a BTO. Typical.
Actually, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I didn't think of asking for any hands.
You already accept already.
Yeah, I accept my fate already lah. So might as well just.
What?
Yeah. So just. I think better cancel this podcast. Yeah. So no, I mean I was just thinking, if we want to stay together next time, I also don't want to make it difficult for Mating to travel around, because at that time I was driving, so I was okay traveling around. Yeah, but then I think for Mating, she was used to staying in a central area where she could go anywhere in half an hour. Yeah, but if we wanted to stay in a place like Toa Payoh, at that time we didn't have a lot of money, right? So we just started working. So that was definitely not an option. So we decided to go somewhere which was more affordable. So Bukit Panjang was affordable and accessible in terms of Mating's needs.
Okay, so how much do you pay for the BTO? What was the size of it?
It was 92 square meters, a 4-room flat. We paid 300,000.
300,000 leh. Very affordable, huh? Sounds like it may never ever happen to me following the amazing climb in HDB prices over the pandemic. But no worries, coconuts. We shall all live in Tengah. But of course, this dynamic duo applied for their BTO in 2011. So that was a decade ago. Let's look forward. Why did they then decide to sell it?
Okay, so first, Mating changed jobs. Yeah, so that transport option was not relevant anymore.
Yeah. Then I became like you, right? Traveling around.
Yeah.
Became a tutor as well. And then at that time, our house just hit the 5-year MOP. 5-year, right? And everybody go online, see what's their options and all that. So I think we're just trying out. We're just looking out and see what are the options. And then the first thing that we had in our mind was to move back to somewhere more central. I think for 2 reasons. One, for my family, because most of them are there. And secondly, for our work, because we are private tutors, right, and we stay in Bukit Panjang, we had students who stay in places like Siglap and all that, and going there is like a torture, even for Simon who drives. So we thought if we stay somewhere more centralized, then it'll be easier for us to see whichever students that we needed to see. Yeah, so those were our main considerations. So at first we look at Toa Payoh, right? But of course, as we all know, Toa Payoh is rather expensive. You're looking at between 8 to 900K. And then we're thinking if you need to pay this amount, right, why not put some more money and then we get a condo for better quality and more
It's new.
It's new as well. It's no longer, because Toa Payoh is all mostly resale houses.
Hold that thought. And is it really better? Are new launch condos really better as compared to resale old flats? This is an endless discussion. Everyone throws their bid and throws their thought processes within it, but everything boils down to your goals and your strategy. Don't blindly take a position, huh? And here we begin the juicy part of Kampong Girl turns Upper Thomson Shunfu Market going girl.
So we toyed with the idea, of getting a condo, but at that time it wasn't very serious yet. So another thing was, once we got into that process, right, we thought, okay, maybe we should get an agent, someone who's more knowledgeable, because we totally had no clue. Previously, just BTO, right, very easy, follow HDB website, all that. Yeah, so we asked around, and then we found a family friend who also helped my sisters to get their houses as well. So I assume that she's quite knowledgeable. So we got her, talked to her a few times, and then she kind of like understood what we were looking for. And then she also advised and said that, you know, condo might be a better choice because, like, exactly like what we said, right? Just put in a few more, like some more money, more value for money at the end of the day. Yeah. Then we started looking at different developments. Yeah. It was quite funny, right? The first few times we went to see show flats because it was our first time. Like, we have never gone to a show flat before.
Yeah.
And then we parked at this Ulu place, remember? We went to dairy farm. We thought we couldn't park at the development. We parked at some Ulu. I thought it's all for the VIP or what. That's how noob we are. But then actually we could park there anyway. Yeah, so we went to a few developments to check it out, and then do we say our property name? Yes, we do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so
not sponsored, but yeah.
Not sponsored, yeah. Oh, I wish we were.
Yeah, text them first.
Text them first.
Hello, by the way. Shout out to JSkate. Yeah, so one of the developments that we saw was JSkate, which is at Shunfu area. So it's relatively close to Toa Payoh, centralized. It has a nearby MRT station, Marymount. So we went to the show flat and we kind of liked what we saw lah. Yeah, and then after some decision making here and there, we got it lah. JSkate, yeah.
So what is the idea of more value for money? Because I hear that, right, in the discussion, yeah, so.
To me, it's about next time if I want to sell, I think like buying a newer property will fetch a higher price compared to resale. Yeah, although like resale, you know, the size is bigger, but then you still must pump in money for reno. So if you add it up, it's gonna amount to close to a condo's price. Yeah, that's my idea.
Okay.
And another thing about this is not just in terms of value, but as self-employed. Both of us are self-employed, right? So the amount of loan we can take for HDBs and ECs is actually much lower because we had to fulfill the MSR as well as the TDSR. And at the same time, we need to take a haircut of 30% of our annual income before they can apply all the TDSR, MSR limits. So this meant that if we want to buy HDB or ECs, we'll hit the limit quite easily. Right, yeah, so we realized that actually we could borrow more money if we bought a private condo.
Really?
Yes.
How does that work?
Because we only needed to fulfill the TDSR limits. Yeah, so that was when condos actually became a viable option. Right, so I can't remember the exact details, but the thing that struck me the most was for self-employed. The banks will only take into account 70% of our income. Yeah, so I can't remember if the TDSR was 40 or 60% of that. So your maximum amount of installment that you can pay is 60% of your monthly income. That's the TDSR. I think the MSR is 30% instead of 60%. So that's effectively half of it. Yeah. So if you do the math, right, if you take 70% from our income and then take another 30% out of that 70%, effectively we could only use 21% of our income for the monthly installments. Yeah, which is what I feel it's way less than salaried employees. Yeah. So we
buy condo.
So we buy condo. Yeah, actually it's more or less like no choice buy condo.
Yeah, because when you look at the amount of loan that we could get and whatever, right, it was rather low. And then it's very funny, like you offer us a lower loan amount, and then we also cannot, pay like a higher installment. Then it's very mind-boggling to us. Yeah, so we ended up getting a condo in the end.
There are a few other pointers to highlight here. They decided to go with an agent because of a lack of experience, clearly distinguishing between the simplicity of the BTO process and the wild wild west in the private property space. But I do want to remind us that an agent is not a must. You can actually go through the process without an agent. You have to evaluate your time and abilities, but it is not a legal mandate. So I don't want to hear any more, oh, I thought only agent can buy and sell. Does not work that way. Also, as with any system, there will always be people that fall through the cracks, some more serious than others. Least, I would say Mating and Simon had kind of a bittersweet issue. The mortgage limits forced them to take a bigger leap forward, and it seems like they're pretty cool with their choice. And Simon has a plug for us.
Yeah, so we wouldn't know terms like repricing, refinancing, or what's the difference, what affects the loan quantum, and especially for us self-employed, there's very little information out there that we can find. And further to Mating's point, it's true. Okay, after I listened to the TFC's podcast on mortgage brokers, then that was when I realized I should have just gotten a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
What episode number was that? I can't remember, but go and listen to that one. Yeah, this is not. I'm not sponsored. Not sponsored. Yeah.
Like,
but if you want to pay me, you can pay me also.
It's genuine recommendation.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Good news is Mortgage Master is our sponsor for Season 2 of Coconut Avenue. They're a mortgage broker in Singapore with access to the lowest unpublished housing loan rates offered by the banks and financial institutions. Check them out at mortgagemaster.com.sg. Also check out the many episodes we did with their founder, David Bay, the Mortgage Master. Back to story, why JSkate?
The location. Yeah, it was good. And then I think mainly the location, I guess. And then the design of it is okay, like we kind of like it.
I feel that the location cannot fight because sheltered walkway to MRT, less than 5 minutes walk. For me, I walk damn fast, so it's 3 minutes walk. Yeah. And then it helps that both of us know the area pretty well because we studied near there before. So we always hang out, play block catching there, all that. Yeah, we have a lot of friends in Bishan.
Yeah.
So and it has good food. Yeah, the prata lah. There used to be Longhouse, but not there anymore. Now it's yet another condo. So it's near MacRitchie. Yeah, so
near the nature.
Yeah, near nature. Yeah, so it has, I think, everything we wanted more or less except maybe
the
if
price
it's even cheaper, then it'll be better Of course it's always like that one.
It's always the price. But I mean,
How much do you spend on it?
1.169 million. So I mean, some people would say, well, I drive what? So Singapore so small, why at most half an hour only? Why need to
pay so
much? Yeah, but actually, because we travel multiple times a day, all of these add on. Every time you get stuck in a jam, you curse. You develop your vocabulary.
Increase your work bank.
Then your usable vocabulary decreases because you are only swearing most of the time. Then,
You don't teach English, right?
I don't. Yeah, maybe I can start teaching Hokkien.
Okay.
But anyway, so like right now, right? I'm staying in Woodlands, and getting stuck in a jam is not fun. And every time the feeling that you are running late because there was an accident on the expressway, multiple times a week, you multiply that to the whole year. It's not very. It's not fun. It's not fun. Yeah. So I think it's better that we stay at a place that's more convenient. So at least it takes away a little bit of stress every day. It makes everything more livable.
You know, right? I can already imagine some of you listening taking this part out to your partner and saying, nah, this is why we should stay near town. To be fair, this is the mark of the upper middle class choice. And I'm not here to restrict your choice, but I want you to take the whole discussion of affordability, what do you value, your property goals, your life goals with your partner, if this is your current situation. Rather than simply take a snippet and say, nah, you see, traveling very stressed, so we should buy in town. Squeeze yourselves. Squeeze. It is either we squeeze our finances for extra surplus to pay for the mortgage, or we squeeze on the MRT every day going to town. Either way, you squeeze lah. You have to decide. I don't want to hear this, Okay, and I put this out as a caveat. Don't take a snippet as the whole argument. Of course, if you're single and you only have yourself to account to, still be responsible to yourself, making sure your property purchase isn't stifling your other pursuits and needs on this journey of life. And actually, Mating and Simon did not decide on the condo right away, unlike Aaron.
But we just go with feel. When we walk into the showroom, we feel okay, then we just go ahead. Because ultimately, I'm the one who making decisions. No one can influence me, right? So I will buy.
This guy buys property macam like buy underwear. So go with the feel. Mating and Simon, they took some time.
Then after that, we didn't decide immediately. Because we didn't think we could afford it. Yeah. So we also wanted to be prudent because we are self-employed. We don't have CPF, so we wanted to make sure that we are comfortable with monthly installments. And so after that, we went home. Then we thought about it.
And then at first we thought we couldn't, because condo, right, you hear the word, you feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to be expensive. So for a short while, we actually put aside this idea of buying a condo in the end. And then very funny, like the next day I came back home, right, the moment I opened the door, Simon was there with a book. He was like, hey, I think can. So he did the numbers. He's the one that's doing all the numbers. Can. So he showed me all the numbers. So that I was like, okay, so I think maybe can. So we called the agent. Then that night we met with her. We told her all these things. The following day we went to JSkate and we made the purchase. I mean, we made the agreement, to buy the apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah, it sounds quite on the go like that.
Yeah. But I trust Simon because he's always very careful with finances and all that. He's the one that's calculating all these things and all that. Yeah. So, yeah, and I looked at the monthly installment there as well. I think we can afford it. So, yeah, we went with it.
Okay. So what were the numbers?
Okay, let's see. Property price, 1.169 million. 5% initial payment, 58,000.
So on the day itself when you signed the contract,
we had
the options to purchase.
Yeah, we have to give them a check which will not be cashed immediately of 5% of the property price. Yeah, so then I think there'll be a process of 8 weeks, I think, for us to sign the OTP, the option to purchase. So if we don't sign it during that period, 25% of that will be returned to us. So it's...
Wait, 25% of your 5% will be returned. So 75% of your 5% deposit.
Sorry, no. Okay, let me keep it simple. 1.25% they will makan.
Of the whole property value?
Yes. I think it's the other way just now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.25 lah. So yeah, they'll keep 1.25%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it was nerve-wracking signing the papers that day. Like, I cannot believe that I'm buying a condo. Yeah. And then he wasn't around because he had to go for lessons, right? So it was just me. And then I remember my hands are like shaking a little bit, like serious. And then, okay, I'm really doing this now. Yeah, so we did it. Yeah, so after that, the next thing... Why are you laughing? It's a real thing. Okay?
I know.
I'm a neighborhood kid, so it's very...
I get it. I feel you, yes.
Unheard of. Anyway, yeah, so after that, the next thing that we had to do was to sell our house. So that, we can avoid the ABSD. Very important. Yeah, so that was somewhere in January, February area, 2020. So we put our house up for sale. And then circuit breaker happened. And then we're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to, do this? And then, for a while, we even thought of, we'll just forgo the 1.25. Maybe we really cannot get it's fated, all this very pessimistic talk and all that. And then somehow, some prospective buyer came along. They had one Zoom session with us, so we held the camera the phone as they viewed the house. The next day they say, okay, we'll buy the house.
Really?
Yeah, we were very shocked. We were like, wow.
No physical viewing.
Yeah.
The whole new world, guys.
Yeah, right. And then we're like, personally, we wouldn't do that, right? If I cannot see the house physically, I wouldn't want to buy the house. But for them, they did. And then it turns out that actually the buyers, right, is a couple. The wife was pregnant at the time, so they needed to get a house. So somehow our needs met each other, so it was a happy thing for everybody. Yeah, so they offered. We accepted the offer, and then did all the paperwork and all that. So we sold the house, and then we moved back to my mother-in-law's house. And then now we're just waiting for JSkate to.
Now we're struggling in Woodlands.
Yes.
That's a story for another day.
Another day. That's a story for another podcast.
I know, right?
So they sold their place, and I was curious, like, how was the payout like? I mean, I know I'm a virgin in this whole property thing, so I was like, okay, so after I sell this place, I supposedly have all this money, right? How are they going to pay me back? How are they going to give me the cash?
So after we signed some paperwork, then the HDB people gave us this check of the cash that we would get.
Yeah, and they will return us the CPF accrued, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't really remember that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got the check and then we quickly cashed it into the bank. Very scary. Cannot drop the check.
How much do you manage to get back?
Around 100,000 for CPF refund, and for cash is about 125,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad. So then the 125,000 immediately goes to paying your down payment.
Yes. And then some.
Okay. So how was that then, like with JSkate? Because you are buying a developing condo, right? Like it's considered a new launch. So for all the people that are like first time,
so
how does it work, right?
Nerve-wracking. So we just followed the instructions that our agent told us to do. So we went to a law firm. And the law firm did all the paperwork, and they explained very clearly what is this check for, what is that check for. So we just followed the instructions. I think when we signed the OTP, 25%, right, or 20%, because initially we already paid the 5% of the apartment, and then on the day when we signed the OTP, it was 20%.
And the buyer's stamp duty.
Yeah. So there was a couple of checks going out that day. Yeah.
Bleeding, huh? What's the buyer? How much was the buyer's stamp duty? How many percent?
About 4%. I have the exact amount here. It's $31,360. Yeah. So this is something that everyone needs to pay lah. So we can't avoid that. Yeah.
And then it was very funny when I cashed in the check. When the moment we did that, a few days later, I received an email from UOB. Do you want to join our wealth banking? I was like, no, I'm not going to have that money in the police.
I've already put it out already.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so it's quite funny. Okay. Yeah, and we also had to get our loan from the bank as well. So that was another process altogether. Yeah.
So you paid the deposit first, the 5%, and then you sold your property, and then you take whatever proceeds that was, from there. It's about 100K into your CPF, 120K in check, and then you put everything into JSkate, right, into the new launch, to sign your 20% down payment and everything. Then after that, then you go get a mortgage. Is that how it works?
We had to settle the loan first before we could sign the OTP.
Yes. Yes.
So we were doing all these things concurrently.
Okay.
So the moment we sold the house, the next step was to get the loan from the bank. Okay. So we looked around interest rate and everything else. Then we got it. Then we did the OTP.
Okay. You get a broker, mortgage broker?
We didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
We should have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to.
Actually, at that time, I didn't know what the mortgage broker does. So, and then our agent, again, she was very helpful, right, offering us all these different banks and all that. So, we just went along with her suggestions. But then after that, when I realized what a mortgage broker does from the Financial Coconuts podcast, then I realized, so that's what they do. So, maybe if we had done that, then we could have more selection as to which bank we could go for.
As well as more clarity on what our options are. Because I felt that during our loan application process, that wasn't explained to us because it was only by one bank.
Long story short, a mortgage broker may be able to give you a wider view of things. And by now, I believe we recognize that a property and a mortgage are two separate things. You have to be familiar with them in your property purchase. Also, CPF accrued interest. This is the amount of money your CPF savings would have earned you in interest if you have not withdrawn to pay for housing. In other words, when you sell your house, on top of paying for the remaining mortgages, whether you take a HLE loan from HDB or the banks, you have to put back this extra quote-unquote interest that you would have originally made if you left your money within the CPF system. We got CPF Wrap on the show, episode 9. We'll talk a little bit more about it. I will also take the chance in episode 9 to update you on all the changes in the numbers and the new regulations, so stay tuned with me. But through this conversation with Meiting and Simon, I learned something very interesting about private condo new launches. Your mortgage payment actually increases over time while the property is being built. So you only really start paying quote-unquote the full monthly amount when the property reaches statutory completion.
Our loan is a floating loan because buildings under construction, we cannot take a fixed loan. So it's pegged to the 3-month SIBOR plus 0.8% spread. Yeah. So at various stage of the building completion, the bank will release a certain amount to the developer. Yeah. So our mortgage, our installment amounts is based on the amount that we owe to the bank after it has released the amount to the developer.
Okay.
Yeah. So it started from, I think...
Very soon, September, I think. Right? Last year, September.
Yeah. When we signed the S&P, the sales and purchase agreement, then it started. What was the initial amount?
It's very okay.
I think $400.
Or 300.
Yeah.
How I wish you stayed at amount forever, but no.
Then since then it has grown to 800.
And what is the ultimate
Per month,
per
right?
month? Yes. What is
About
your...
About $3,000.
Okay, so that is when the property is fully completed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the bank will pay the developer the whatever that they still need to pay.
Yes.
And then you get to stay inside them. By the time you stay inside, then it's 3,000 a month.
By the time we stay inside, it's actually slightly less, still slightly less, because there's this process called the statutory completion. That's when we pay the full amount. So there's TOP, where we'll pay up to, I think, 75 or 80%, I can't remember, of the amount. Then the bank will release the rest by the time we reach statutory completion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you stay for 2 years, you don't pay the full amount. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Like an official,
Yeah, I know. To make sure everything's easy, right? Nothing happened.
But you still can go and stay.
But you can already stay already.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-year process.
It depends on when you TOP, because the completion date is more or less fixed, but the TOP we don't know.
Okay. So the TOP is something that you can... The moment you TOP, that means you got the keys, you can live inside already.
Yeah.
But the statutory completion is a mutual agreement that by this time, it should be considered like completed and you should pay the full.
Yes.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Nice. Okay.
In other words, maybe during your first few years of staying in the condo, you don't even pay the quote-unquote full monthly installment. Very interesting, huh? And if you think about it, HDB has MOP, Minimum Occupancy Period, which is a time where you have to occupy it and you cannot legally sell it. You cannot sell this property. So this is a legal restriction. But in private condominiums, there are no such legal restrictions where you cannot sell it, but you do pay additional seller stamp duty if you sell it within 3 years of occupying. Okay, so technically there's no MOP in selling a private condominium, but you do pay extra tax if you are selling it within a 3-year period. So you think about it, this is you. So yeah, very interesting, right? For some of the people speculating properties, it may be cheaper than what we think. And I'm sure there are many other good juices that you've picked up today. And like me, you must be very proud of our kampong girl, Meiting and Simon. And, I'm not saying this must be your Singaporean dream, but I'm very proud of her because I also come from the kampong. And if this is your goal, I hope you become clearer about the details of it and know that this is possible. Next week, you will hear from Rakesh, our host from TFC Stock Geek Out. He and his wife, who is a foreigner, okay? Important detail, remember this. Bought a resale at Hougang, and he has some thoughts about using property as his retirement strategy. My question is it still possible today?
Oh, definitely get a mortgage broker.
Not sponsored, by the way.
Not sponsored, yes.
They are our sponsor for this season.
Oh, yeah, okay, but they didn't sponsor us to say this.
Yeah,
I genuinely think that you guys should get a mortgage broker.
Yeah, please do that. Please do that.
Yeah.
And also, think about your needs very carefully. And please avoid paying ABSD if you don't have at least 2 properties yet. Yeah, because ABSD is no joke. If you are thinking about it from an investment point of view, then if you fork out more money, that money you can't get back, then your returns will be lower.
Yep, I know, and I will update you guys the latest numbers in episode 9. Also, I never asked them to say those words. I never. Mortgage broker or not, still your choice. See ya.